They called her grip weak and said she'd never handle a real weapon. But Petty Officer Second Class Elena Vasquez would go on to shatter every marksmanship record in the Pacific Fleet and become the most lethal gunner the Navy had seen in 3 decades. What they didn't know was that while they mocked her small hands and questioned her strength, she was spending every free moment perfecting techniques that would make their best shooters look like amateurs. Elena had been stationed aboard the USS Constellation for 18 months, assigned to the weapons department as a fire control technician. At 28, she possessed the kind of quiet precision that kept the ship's defensive systems operational, but her colleagues saw only what they expected to see, a 5'4" woman with delicate hands who seemed better suited for paperwork than warfare. The weapons bay buzzed with constant activity as sailors maintained the ship's extensive armament, from the close-in weapon systems to the massive 5-inch deck guns that could engage targets 20 miles away. Her workstation occupied a corner of the Tactical Weapons Center, surrounded by targeting computers, radar displays, and the sophisticated fire control systems that coordinated the ship's defensive capabilities. Elena could diagnose targeting malfunctions that stumped senior technicians, optimize firing solutions under impossible conditions, and anticipate system failures before they occurred. When gun crews needed emergency maintenance during live fire exercises, Elena could restore functionality in minutes rather than hours. When communication failures disrupted targeting data between the bridge and weapons systems, she already had backup protocols running before most officers realized there was a problem. But what nobody knew, what Elena carefully concealed beneath her professional demeanor, was that she spent every spare moment studying advanced gunnery techniques and marksmanship principles. Not the standard maintenance manuals that every weapons technician skimmed through during basic training, but the classified firing doctrine guides, specialized ballistics calculations, and expert marksmanship protocols that crossed her desk when coordinating with the ship's gunnery teams. She had committed to memory the ballistic characteristics of every weapon system in their arsenal, from the standard-issue sidearms to the sophisticated Mark 45 naval guns that served as the ship's primary offensive capability. Elena understood the physics of projectile motion better than most of the gunners themselves. She could calculate windage adjustments, compensate for ship movement, and predict target behavior with mathematical precision that came from months of studying ballistics texts and trajectory analysis. During equipment maintenance, she studied the mechanical tolerances of each weapon system, understanding how microscopic variations in barrel alignment could affect accuracy at extreme ranges. Her technical expertise gave her insights into gunnery that pure marksmanship training couldn't provide. This morning began like countless others before it. Elena was analyzing firing data from the previous day's exercises when Chief Petty Officer Chief Dalton entered the weapons center, his heavy boots leaving scuff marks on the recently cleaned deck. Behind him followed his usual group, Petty Officer First Class Kevin Torres, a gunnery specialist who had arrived 6 months ago with an inflated sense of his own abilities, and gunner's mate Second Class Brad Mitchell, Dalton's favorite crew member who could seemingly do no wrong with the ship's weapons systems. "Vasquez," Dalton called out, not bothering to approach her station. "We need those targeting calibration reports for tomorrow's live fire exercise by 1500 hours. Think you can handle that? Or should I assign it to someone with actual shooting experience?" Elena looked up from her monitor, her expression professionally neutral despite the familiar sting of his words. "The calibrations were completed at 0600, Chief. They've been uploaded to the Fire Control Network with hard copies placed in your briefing folder. I've included compensations for the predicted weather conditions and highlighted potential interference patterns from the electronic warfare systems." Torres smirked visibly, always eager to curry favor with the chief. "Always trying to prove something," he muttered loud enough for Elena to hear, "sticking to the technical stuff instead of learning what real gunnery is about." "Actually," Elena continued, maintaining her composure, "I noticed a potential accuracy issue in yesterday's firing pattern. The dispersion pattern suggests barrel harmonics are affecting long-range precision. If we adjust the firing sequence timing or recalibrate the stabilization systems at these specific ranges, we could improve accuracy by approximately 12%. Dalton's jaw tightened noticeably. He didn't appreciate being corrected, especially not by a fire control technician who had never fired anything larger than a pistol during qualification. I'll be the judge of what affects our accuracy, Vasquez. Just stick to your computer screens and leave the actual shooting to sailors who understand what combat gunnery requires. Elena saved her work and stood up, retrieving a folder from her filing cabinet. She placed it on her desk and opened it deliberately. Chief, I've cross-referenced the firing patterns with atmospheric data and ship movement logs. The mathematical analysis indicates a clear correlation between... Enough, Vasquez. Dalton's voice cut through the weapons center like a gunshot. You're a technician, not a gunner. You calibrate equipment and run diagnostics. You don't analyze firing patterns or make recommendations about combat effectiveness. That's why you're stuck behind that computer, instead of manning the guns with real sailors. The weapons center fell silent except for the steady hum of cooling systems and the distant vibration of the ship's engines. Mitchell shifted his weight uncomfortably, and even Torres seemed to sense that something fundamental had shifted in the atmosphere. Elena closed the folder slowly, her fingers steady despite the heat rising in her face. "Understood, Chief," she said quietly. As Dalton and his followers left, Elena remained standing at her desk, staring at the closed folder. Inside were copies of every marksmanship qualification she had ever earned, every advanced ballistics course she had completed during off-duty hours, every shooting record she had set at civilian ranges during shore leave when nobody was watching. Also tucked away was correspondence with the Naval Surface Warfare Center regarding an experimental gunnery program that Dalton knew nothing about. Elena had been invisible for 18 months, but invisibility came with unexpected advantages. People didn't notice when you stayed after hours to study firing solutions and ballistic calculations. They didn't question why you volunteered for every advanced weapons training course that came through the fleet. And they certainly didn't expect you to have connections that extended far beyond your immediate chain of command through academic collaborations with naval research facilities. She sat back down at her station and reopened the firing analysis. Then, almost as an afterthought, she opened a secure communication channel and began typing a message to Commander Sarah Chen at the Naval Surface Warfare Center. The subject line read, "Experimental Accuracy Protocol Analysis Complete. Ready for field validation testing." Elena had spent 18 months learning to be invisible within the system. Now it was time to disappear completely and reappear precisely where no one expected her to be. The USS Constellation's daily routine continued around her as Elena returned to her work, analyzing targeting data with the same methodical precision that had made her indispensable to the weapons department's operations. Through the porthole near her station, she could see the endless expanse of the Pacific Ocean stretching toward the horizon. Tomorrow would bring another live-fire exercise, another opportunity for the ship's gunners to demonstrate their skills, and another day of Elena being dismissed as just a technician who knew nothing about real combat gunnery. But Elena knew something that Dalton and his crew didn't understand. True marksmanship wasn't just about physical strength or aggressive posturing. It was about understanding the complex interaction of physics, mathematics, and mechanical precision that governed every projectile from the moment it left the barrel until it reached its target. It was about reading environmental conditions, calculating trajectories, and making minute adjustments that could mean the difference between a hit and a miss at ranges where human intuition became worthless. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work, so if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. While her colleagues focused on the spectacle of firing the ship's big guns, Elena had been studying the science behind accuracy. She understood how atmospheric pressure affected projectile behavior, how ship motion created complex variables in targeting calculations, and how the mechanical characteristics of each weapon system could be optimized for maximum precision. Her technical background had given her insights into gunnery that traditional training methods couldn't provide. The folder on her desk contained more than just personal achievements. It held the results of months of theoretical analysis and practical experimentation. Elena had been developing new approaches to naval gunnery that combined traditional marksmanship with advanced computational methods. Her proposals for improving accuracy through mathematical modeling and precision calibration had caught the attention of researchers at the Naval Surface Warfare Center, leading to the correspondence that Dalton knew nothing about. As the afternoon watch progressed, Elena continued her routine maintenance of the fire control systems, ensuring that every targeting computer and guidance system operated within perfect parameters. Her colleagues saw only a quiet technician performing mundane tasks. They didn't see the analytical mind that was constantly processing information, identifying patterns, and developing solutions to problems they didn't even recognize existed. Elena's apparent physical limitations had become her greatest advantage. While others dismissed her because of their preconceptions about strength and capability, she had been free to develop skills that transcended traditional approaches to naval gunnery. Her success would not come from conforming to their expectations, but from demonstrating that excellence could emerge from the most unexpected sources. The setting sun painted the ocean in brilliant shades of orange and red as Elena completed her shift. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to prove that assumptions about capability were often wrong. But tonight, she had work to do in preparation for the validation that was coming, whether Dalton and his crew were ready for it or not. 3 days after the confrontation in the weapons center, Elena arrived at her duty station to find her access credentials had been downgraded. She stood at the entrance to the advanced fire control section, watching as her access card triggered a red denial light on the scanner. A line of gunnery specialists waited behind her, their morning briefings delayed as she repeatedly swiped the card that had worked flawlessly for 18 months. Having problems, Vasquez? Petty Officer Torres appeared beside her, satisfaction evident in his tone. Maybe you should try the general maintenance area. You know, where the technical support personnel belong. Elena stepped aside, allowing Torres to swipe his own credentials. The door unlocked immediately with an affirmative beep. There must be a system error, Elena said evenly. I'll check with security. Oh, there's no error, Torres replied, holding the door open but pointedly blocking Elena's path. Chief Dalton implemented new security protocols yesterday. Apparently, there were concerns about non-essential personnel accessing sensitive gunnery information. The specialist waiting behind them exchanged uncomfortable glances. Gunner's Mate First Class Maria Santos, a 15-year veteran who had worked with Elena on countless weapons maintenance operations, stepped forward. Torres, with respect, Petty Officer Vasquez has clearance for this area. She maintains all our targeting systems and has access to new protocols, Santos, Torres interrupted sharply. Take it up with the chief if you have issues with proper security measures. Elena watched Torres disappear into the restricted area, then turned to Santos. It's fine, Maria, I'll sort this out. But as Elena walked across the ship toward the administrative offices, she noticed other changes. The access codes to the weapons storage areas had been changed without notification. Her regular station in the fire control center had been reassigned to a junior technician. Her name had been removed from the gunnery exercise distribution list posted in the main corridor. In the ship's administrative office, Elena found herself sitting across from Lieutenant Commander David Foster, the vessel's personnel officer. Foster looked distinctly uncomfortable as he reviewed her file on his tablet. I'm sorry, Petty Officer Vasquez. The access restriction came directly from Chief Dalton. He cited operational security concerns. Sir, I've maintained secret clearance for 5 years without incident. My record is spotless. What specific security concern? He didn't specify, Foster said quickly, avoiding her gaze, but he did mention that your recent behavior has been concerning. Apparently, you've been overstepping your assigned duties and attempting to influence gunnery operations. Elena felt something cold settle in her stomach. What operations? Foster consulted his notes. Questioning established firing procedures, attempting to override ballistic calculations. Challenging command decisions in front of subordinates. He looked up at her with what might have been sympathy. Look, Elena, I've known you since you arrived on the Constellation. This doesn't sound like you. But Dalton is building a case that you're becoming disruptive to departmental cohesion. Disruptive for doing my job? For doing more than your job, Foster corrected. For acting like you're qualified to make decisions that are above your position and experience level. Elena left the administrative office with her access temporarily restored to basic levels, but the message was unmistakable. Stay in your lane or lose your position entirely. As she walked back toward her reassigned workspace in the general maintenance area, she passed the gunnery range where Mitchell was leading a crew through weapons drills. He nodded to her briefly, seemingly oblivious to the targeted campaign building against her. That evening, Elena stayed late again, but this time, she wasn't alone. Gunners Mate Santos found her in the nearly empty mess hall at 2100 hours, nursing a cup of coffee that had long since gone cold. Vasquez, what's really happening here? Santos asked, settling into the seat across from her. Dalton has been asking questions about your work patterns, your access history, even your training records. I've never seen him target someone like this. I think he wants me gone. Why? You're the most effective fire control technician this ship has. Half our successful exercises in the past year wouldn't have happened without your systems coordination. Elena studied Santos carefully. She represented the old guard of the Navy, someone who valued competence over politics and results over appearances. Can I ask you something off the record? Shoot. If someone hypothetically had all the qualifications for gunnery operations, all the training, all the certifications, but was blocked from actual firing assignments because of politics or preconceptions, what would you advise them to do? Santos was quiet for a long moment, turning her coffee mug slowly between weathered hands. Hypothetically, I'd say that person should remember that the Navy is bigger than any one ship and bigger than any one commanding officer. Sometimes you have to navigate around obstacles instead of confronting them directly. Even if it means career suicide? Santos's voice softened. Some things are worth the risk. And some people are meant to be in the fight, whether or not their current assignment reflects that reality. After Santos left, Elena opened her secure tablet and composed a message to Commander Chen. Situation accelerating. Request immediate participation in experimental accuracy program. The response arrived within 30 minutes. Request confirmed. Report to Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren next week for evaluation. New assignment begins immediately upon qualification. Elena printed the message, folded it carefully, and tucked it into her pocket. Tomorrow, she would submit a formal transfer request to the Naval Surface Warfare Center. She would follow proper channels and document everything meticulously. But tonight, she had one more message to send. This one went directly to Captain Jennifer Walsh, the ship's commanding officer, and Dalton's superior. The subject line read, Request for formal review of discriminatory practices and safety concerns affecting weapons department efficiency. Elena had been playing defense for 18 months. Now it was time to go on the offensive. The next morning brought new restrictions. Elena discovered that her maintenance schedules had been reassigned to junior technicians, effectively removing her from direct contact with the ship's primary weapons systems. When she attempted to access the ballistics calculation software she'd been using to optimize firing solutions, her login credentials were denied. Chief Dalton appeared at her new workstation in the general maintenance area, his expression one of barely concealed satisfaction. Vasquez, you'll be focusing on basic equipment maintenance from now on. Cleaning, routine inspections, inventory management. Leave the technical work to personnel who understand their limitations. Chief, the targeting systems require qualified technicians, not someone who thinks reading manuals makes them a gunnery expert. Dalton's voice carried across the maintenance bay, drawing attention from other personnel. Your job is to maintain equipment, not to play at being something you're not. Elena felt the eyes of her colleagues on her, some sympathetic, others uncertain. The message was clear. This was what happened to people who stepped out of line, who challenged the established order. Throughout the day, Elena noticed other changes. Her suggestions during maintenance briefings were dismissed without consideration. Technical problems she identified were attributed to other sources. Her expertise, which had once been valued, was now treated as presumptuous overreach. During the afternoon watch, Elena overheard Torres and Mitchell discussing her situation in the corridor outside the maintenance bay. Their voices carried clearly through the thin bulkhead. Dalton's really making an example of her, Torres said. Showing everyone what happens when you get too big for your britches. She was always weird, Mitchell replied, acting like she knew better than experienced gunners. Maybe this will teach her some humility. I heard she's been trying to get transferred. Good riddance, if you ask me. We don't need troublemakers in the weapons department. Elena continued her work, cataloging spare parts with mechanical precision while processing the implications of what she'd heard. The campaign against her wasn't just about maintaining hierarchy. It was about sending a message to anyone else who might consider challenging the established order. Later that evening, Elena received an unexpected visitor. Gunner's mate Second Class Robert Kim, one of the ship's most experienced marksmen, found her in the maintenance bay during the evening watch. "Vasquez, I need to tell you something," Kim said, looking around to ensure they weren't overheard. "Dalton tried to get me to sign a statement saying you interfered with my weapons maintenance. He wanted me to say you gave incorrect technical advice that could have compromised firing accuracy." Elena felt her stomach drop. "What did you tell him?" "I told him to find someone else to lie for him," Kim said firmly. "But Elena, he's not finished. He's calling in favors, trying to get people to support his claims. He's scared." "Scared of what?" Kim studied her for a moment. "He's scared that you're going to expose him for the mediocre leader he is. Think about it. If you succeed in getting a gunnery position, if you actually become the marksman I think you could be, it proves that every time he's dismissed technical personnel as incapable of understanding real gunnery, he was wrong. And if he was wrong about you, what else has he been wrong about?" That night, Elena sat in her small quarters, reviewing the documentation she'd been assembling. Her transfer request to the Naval Surface Warfare Center was complete, supported by her technical qualifications and the experimental work she'd been conducting with Commander Chen. The formal complaint against Dalton was documented with witness statements and evidence of discriminatory treatment. But as she prepared for what might be her final days aboard the Constellation, Elena realized that her struggle wasn't just about personal vindication. It was about proving that capability couldn't be determined by preconceptions, that excellence could emerge from unexpected sources, and that the Navy's greatest strength lay not in maintaining rigid hierarchies, but in recognizing and developing talent wherever it appeared. The ship's gentle motion as it cut through the Pacific swells provided a steady rhythm as Elena finalized her preparations. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new attempts to marginalize her contributions, and new evidence of the systematic barriers that prevented qualified personnel from reaching their potential. But it would also bring her one step closer to the opportunity that would prove, once and for all, that assumptions about weakness and strength were often dangerously wrong. For 3 years before arriving on the USS Constellation, Elena had been living a carefully constructed double life. While her official records showed a competent fire control technician with standard qualifications, the reality was far more complex. Every shore leave, every weekend pass, every moment of free time had been dedicated to a single obsession: becoming the most precise marksman the Navy had ever seen. It began during her first assignment at Naval Station Norfolk, where a chance encounter with retired Master Chief Samuel Rodriguez changed the trajectory of her career. Rodriguez had been the Navy's top marksman for 12 consecutive years before a training accident ended his active duty service. Now he ran a private shooting academy that catered to law enforcement and military personnel seeking to exceed standard qualification requirements. Elena had stumbled upon his facility during a weekend exploration of Virginia Beach, drawn by the sound of precision rifle fire that seemed different from the standard training she'd experienced. Through the chain-link fence, she watched Rodriguez coaching a small group of Marines in long-range marksmanship techniques that went far beyond anything she'd learned in basic training. "You interested in real shooting, or just curious?" Rodriguez had called out, noticing her intense observation of the training session. Elena approached the fence, uncertain but intrigued. "I'm Navy, fire control technician. I know the theory, but I've never had the chance to apply it practically." Rodriguez studied her for a moment, taking in her slight frame and serious expression. "Theory's important. Most people think shooting is all about strength and aggression. But the best marksmen I've known understood that precision comes from understanding the science behind the shot." That conversation led to Elena's first lesson with Rodriguez, a revelation that changed everything she thought she knew about marksmanship. Where Navy training focused on basic proficiency and standard techniques, Rodriguez taught the advanced principles that separated competent shooters from exceptional ones. "Your hands aren't weak," Rodriguez had told her during that first session, watching her struggle with the standard grip technique she'd learned in basic training. "They're just not trained for this specific application. Look at a surgeon's hands, a watchmaker's hands, a violinist's hands. Strength isn't about force. It's about control, precision, and endurance." Over the following months, Elena learned to leverage her natural advantages rather than compensate for perceived weaknesses. Her small hands, which had been mocked as inadequate for handling serious weapons, proved ideal for the fine motor control required for precision shooting. Her analytical mind, honed through years of technical training, absorbed the complex mathematics of ballistics with an ease that surprised even Rodriguez. "Most shooters rely on instinct and experience," Rodriguez explained as Elena consistently placed shots within increasingly tight groupings. You're approaching this like an engineer solving a complex equation. Every environmental factor, every mechanical variable, every physical input, you're processing it all simultaneously and making microsecond adjustments that most people can't even perceive. Elena's training with Rodriguez intensified over 2 years, expanding far beyond basic marksmanship into specialized techniques that few military personnel ever mastered. She learned to compensate for wind patterns at extreme ranges, to calculate trajectory adjustments for moving targets, and to maintain accuracy under physical stress that would compromise most shooters. The breakthrough came during a particularly challenging exercise involving precision shots at 800 meters in variable wind conditions. While other students struggled to maintain acceptable groupings, Elena's shots consistently found their marks with mathematical precision. "I've been doing this for 30 years, Rodriguez told her after that session. "I've trained Navy SEALs, Marine snipers, competition champions. What you just demonstrated isn't just exceptional, it's unprecedented. You're not just a good shooter, Elena, you're operating at a level that most professionals never reach." But Elena's secret preparation extended far beyond civilian training. Using her technical clearances and connections within the Navy's research community, she had gained access to advanced ballistics laboratories and experimental weapons programs that existed at the intersection of her official duties and her personal obsessions. Commander Sarah Chen at the Naval Surface Warfare Center had become both mentor and collaborator after Elena submitted a detailed analysis of potential improvements to naval gunnery accuracy. Chen, impressed by the mathematical sophistication of Elena's proposals, had quietly arranged for her to participate in classified research projects that explored the boundaries of precision firing. Traditional naval gunnery training focuses on volume of fire and general area effectiveness, Chen had explained during Elena's first visit to the Dahlgren facility. But modern naval combat requires precision engagement at extreme ranges. "We need marksmen who can hit specific targets with individual rounds, not gunners who rely on saturation fire." Elena's work with Chen involved testing experimental ammunition, evaluating advanced targeting systems, and developing mathematical models that could predict optimal firing solutions under complex conditions. Her unique combination of technical expertise and emerging marksmanship skills made her an ideal test subject for theories that existed only in research papers. During one memorable session at Dahlgren, Elena had been asked to engage targets at ranges exceeding anything attempted in standard naval training. Using a prototype naval rifle system connected to advanced computational targeting, she achieved accuracy rates that exceeded the performance parameters of the experimental equipment itself. "The computer is calculating optimal firing solutions," the lead researcher had explained to Chen while reviewing Elena's results. "But she's making intuitive adjustments that improve on the mathematical predictions. She's essentially outperforming our most advanced targeting algorithms." Elena's secret training extended to physical conditioning specifically designed for marksmanship excellence. While her colleagues at the gym focused on general fitness, Elena worked with specialized trainers who understood the specific physical demands of precision shooting. Her routine included exercises to improve respiratory control, enhance fine motor stability, and develop the muscular endurance required for maintaining accuracy during extended firing sessions. Dr. Amanda Foster, a sports physiologist who worked with Olympic shooting teams, had designed Elena's conditioning program after Rodriguez connected them during Elena's second year of training. Foster's approach treated marksmanship as a precision sport, requiring the same level of physical and mental preparation as any elite athletic competition. "Shooting at the highest levels is 60% mental, 30% physical, and 10% equipment," Foster had explained during Elena's initial assessment. "Your technical background gives you advantages in the mental and equipment aspects. We need to optimize your physical platform to support those advantages." Elena's training with Foster involved techniques borrowed from multiple disciplines: breathing exercises from meditation practices, muscle control methods from dance training, and concentration techniques from chess grandmasters. The result was a shooter who could maintain stability and precision under conditions that would compromise most marksmen. But perhaps the most significant aspect of Elena's secret preparation was her access to military personnel, who recognized her potential and were willing to provide informal training that went far beyond her official duties. Sergeant Major Patricia Wells, a Marine instructor at Quantico, had taken interest in Elena's development after Chen arranged for cross-service training opportunities. "Most people think Marine marksmanship training is about aggression and firepower," Wells had told Elena during their first session together. That's Hollywood nonsense. Real Marine marksmen are technicians, artists, and scientists. We use precision and intelligence to achieve effects that others need overwhelming force to accomplish. Wells's training focused on advanced techniques that Elena couldn't access through Navy channels: urban combat marksmanship, engagement of multiple targets under time pressure, and maintenance of accuracy while under simulated combat stress. Elena's performance in these exercises consistently exceeded the standards required for Marine Scout Sniper qualification. "You have something I've rarely seen," Wells had observed after Elena completed a particularly challenging course of fire. "Most shooters have to choose between speed and accuracy. You're maintaining both simultaneously. That's not a skill you can teach. It's an innate ability that you've developed through exceptional training." Elena's preparation also involved extensive study of historical marksmanship achievements and the techniques used by legendary marksmen throughout military history. She analyzed the methods of World War II snipers, studied the training protocols used by Olympic champions, and examined the technological innovations that had advanced precision shooting over decades. Her personal library contained technical manuals that few people knew existed, classified studies on ballistics optimization, research papers on human performance under stress, and theoretical analyses of marksmanship that existed only in academic circles. Elena approached shooting with the same systematic methodology she applied to technical problems, treating each aspect of performance as a variable that could be optimized through study and practice. The culmination of Elena's secret preparation was her unofficial qualification for specialized marksmanship programs that didn't officially exist. Through Chen's connections and Wells's recommendations, Elena had participated in evaluation exercises that tested her capabilities against standards used for the military's most elite marksmen. The results were extraordinary. Elena's scores exceeded qualification thresholds for programs that recruited from special operations units. Her accuracy at extreme ranges surpassed requirements for designated marksman positions. Her performance under stress matched standards set for counter-sniper operations. But most significantly, Elena had developed innovations in marksmanship technique that combined her technical background with her practical skills. Her mathematical approach to environmental compensation, her systematic methodology for equipment optimization, and her analytical approach to performance improvement represented advances that could benefit military marksmanship training across all services. As Elena completed her final preparations aboard the Constellation, reviewing her documentation and finalizing her transfer request, she reflected on the 3 years of secret dedication that had brought her to this moment. Every mocked comment about her weak grip, every dismissive remark about her technical limitations, every assumption about her incapability, had only strengthened her resolve to prove that excellence could emerge from the most unexpected sources. Tomorrow would bring the formal evaluation that would validate years of hidden preparation. But tonight, Elena knew with absolute certainty that she was ready to demonstrate capabilities that would shock everyone who had underestimated her potential. The morning after Elena's complaint reached Captain Walsh's office, the retaliation began in earnest. Chief Dalton arrived at the maintenance bay, accompanied by Master-at-Arms Second Class Jennifer Brooks, the ship's security investigator, carrying an official incident report folder that made Elena's stomach clench with foreboding. "Vasquez, we need to discuss some irregularities in your work performance," Dalton announced loudly enough for the entire maintenance crew to hear. "Brooks here has some questions about your access to classified materials and your communications with unauthorized personnel." Elena set down her diagnostic equipment and faced them directly, maintaining her composure despite the obvious attempt at public humiliation. "I'm available to answer any questions, Chief." Brooks opened her folder with theatrical precision. "Petty Officer Vasquez, it has come to our attention that you've been accessing ballistics calculation software beyond your authorized duties. Can you explain why a fire control technician needs advanced trajectory analysis programs?" "Those calculations are part of optimizing targeting system accuracy," Elena replied evenly. "My technical responsibilities include ensuring all fire control systems operate at maximum efficiency." "Your technical responsibilities," Dalton interrupted, "include basic maintenance and routine diagnostics. They don't include playing with software that's designed for qualified gunnery specialists." Brooks consulted her notes. "We've also received reports that you've been engaging in unauthorized communications with personnel at Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren." These communications appear to involve sharing technical data about our weapon systems. Elena felt the accusation like a physical blow. They were twisting her legitimate research collaboration with Commander Chen into something that sounded like a security violation. My communications with Commander Chen are related to authorized research into improving naval gunnery accuracy. All correspondence has been conducted through proper channels. Proper channels would involve approval from your immediate supervisor, Dalton said coldly. Did you request permission from me before initiating contact with external personnel about our weapons capabilities? The question was a trap, and Elena recognized it immediately. Dalton had never been informed about her research work because it had been initiated through technical channels that bypassed his authority. But now he was framing her legitimate activities as unauthorized disclosure of sensitive information. The research coordination was initiated through technical liaison protocols, Elena said carefully. Commander Chen's clearance level and official position authorize her to receive the technical data we discussed. That's not the question I asked, Dalton pressed. Did you or did you not share information about this ship's weapons systems without authorization from your chain of command? Elena realized that anything she said could be twisted to support their predetermined conclusion. I followed all applicable regulations regarding technical information sharing with authorized personnel. Brooks made notes as if Elena's response was somehow incriminating. We'll need to conduct a thorough review of your communications and computer access logs. In the meantime, your security clearance is being temporarily suspended pending investigation. The words hit Elena like a sledgehammer. Without her security clearance, she would be barred from accessing any of the advanced systems that comprised her actual job responsibilities. She would be relegated to the most basic maintenance tasks, effectively neutering her ability to contribute to the ship's operations. On what grounds? Elena asked, fighting to keep her voice steady. Potential unauthorized disclosure of classified information and exceeding authorized duties, Brooks replied mechanically. Standard procedure during security investigations. As Brooks and Dalton left the maintenance bay, Elena became aware of the profound silence surrounding her. Her colleagues had witnessed what amounted to a public accusation of security violations, one of the most serious charges that could be leveled against military personnel. Petty Officer Second Class Marcus Webb, a communications technician who had worked closely with Elena on integrated systems maintenance, approached her station cautiously. Elena, is there anything? Webb, step away from that station, Torres's voice cut across the bay. He had appeared as if summoned, carrying a tablet displaying new duty assignments. Vasquez is restricted to non-classified maintenance only. Anyone sharing information with her could be implicated in the security investigation. Elena watched as Webb retreated, the message clear to everyone present. Association with her could jeopardize their own careers. Within minutes, the informal networks of cooperation and mutual support that had sustained her work began dissolving as colleagues distanced themselves from potential contamination. The isolation deepened throughout the day as word of the security investigation spread through the ship's informal communication networks. Personnel who had previously sought her technical expertise now avoided her. Conversations quieted when she entered a room. Her suggestions during routine briefings were ignored or dismissed without consideration. During the afternoon watch, Elena discovered that her computer access had been restricted to basic inventory management systems. The sophisticated diagnostic tools she used to maintain the ship's weapons systems were no longer available to her. Her workstation had been moved to a corner of the maintenance bay, physically separating her from the advanced equipment she had maintained for 18 months. Senior Chief Patricia Morrison, the Weapons Department's senior enlisted advisor, found Elena reorganizing basic supply inventories in her new isolated workspace. Morrison had always maintained professional relations with Elena, respecting her technical competence while staying clear of departmental politics. Vasquez, I need to ask you something directly, Morrison said quietly, ensuring their conversation wouldn't be overheard. Are these security allegations legitimate? Because if they are, you need legal representation immediately. Elena looked up from her clipboard, grateful for Morrison's direct approach. Senior Chief, every communication I've had with Commander Chen has been documented and conducted through authorized channels. The research we discussed is aimed at improving naval gunnery effectiveness. There's nothing classified or unauthorized about it. Morrison studied her carefully. Then why are you sitting here counting spare parts instead of maintaining our targeting systems? Because Chief Dalton is trying to force me out, Elena said simply. He's using the security investigation as a weapon to discredit me professionally. That's a serious accusation. It's also accurate. He's been systematically restricting my access, downgrading my responsibilities, and now he's questioning my loyalty to create justification for getting rid of me. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Elena, I've been in this Navy for 22 years. I've seen good sailors destroyed by politics, and I've seen mediocre leaders protect their territory by eliminating threats to their authority. If what you're saying is true, you need to document everything and prepare for a fight. That evening, Elena sat in her quarters reviewing the documentation she had been assembling since Dalton's campaign began. Her folder now contained copies of all her communications with Commander Chen, records of her technical qualifications and training, and witness statements from personnel who had observed Dalton's discriminatory treatment. But the security investigation changed everything. Even if Elena could prove that Dalton's accusations were unfounded, the mere existence of the investigation would follow her throughout her career. Security violations, even when ultimately dismissed, created permanent stains on personnel records that affected advancement opportunities and assignment availability. Elena realized that her options were narrowing rapidly. She could fight the security investigation through official channels, a process that could take months and would keep her sidelined during the entire period. She could accept the restrictions and hope that the investigation would eventually clear her, though Dalton's influence over the process made that outcome uncertain. Or she could accelerate her timeline and force a resolution before Dalton could complete his systematic destruction of her career. Her secure tablet chimed with an encrypted message from Commander Chen. Heard about your situation through official channels. Evaluation opportunities still available if you can break free from current restrictions. Time may be limited. Elena stared at the message, understanding its implications. Chen was offering her a way out, but only if she could extract herself from Dalton's web before the security investigation made any transfer impossible. The next morning brought new restrictions. Elena discovered that her meal card had been flagged for a, quote, administrative review, forcing her to eat during off-peak hours when the mess hall was nearly empty. Her duty schedule had been altered to minimize her contact with other personnel, isolating her further from the informal networks that sustained shipboard life. When Elena attempted to access her personal email during authorized computer time, she found that her internet privileges had been suspended pending the security investigation. The message was clear. She was being systematically cut off from all forms of communication and support. Torres approached her isolated workstation with obvious satisfaction. Vasquez, Chief Dalton wants to see you in his office. Bring your duty assignment folder. Elena gathered her materials and walked to Dalton's office, aware that every step was being observed by personnel who had heard about the security investigation. The corridor seemed longer than usual, and the normal sounds of shipboard activity felt muffled and distant. Dalton's office was cramped and cluttered, dominated by a desk covered with administrative paperwork and performance evaluations. He gestured for Elena to sit in the single chair facing his desk while he remained standing, using height advantage to reinforce his authority. Vasquez, I've been reviewing your performance since joining this ship, Dalton began, consulting a thick folder that Elena recognized as her personnel file. What I see is a pattern of insubordination, exceeding authorized responsibilities, and attempting to influence operations beyond your competence level. Elena remained silent, recognizing that anything she said would be used against her. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work. So if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. The security investigation has revealed communications that raise serious questions about your judgment and loyalty, Dalton continued. Sharing technical information with outside personnel without proper authorization demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of your duties and responsibilities. Elena could no longer remain silent. Chief, my communications with Commander Chen were entirely appropriate and related to authorized research into improving... Enough, Dalton snapped. Your opinion about what's appropriate is irrelevant. What matters is that you violated the chain of command and exceeded your authority. These actions have created security concerns that compromise this ship's operational effectiveness. Dalton opened another folder and extracted several sheets of paper. I'm recommending disciplinary action for insubordination, unauthorized disclosure of technical information, and conduct detrimental to good order and discipline. You'll have an opportunity to respond in writing, but I expect this matter to be resolved quickly. Elena stared at the disciplinary paperwork, understanding that Dalton was forcing her toward a career-ending confrontation. The charges he was filing would require a formal investigation that could result in administrative punishment, loss of security clearance, and ultimately separation from the Navy. "Is there anything else, Chief?" Elena asked quietly. "Yes," Dalton replied with barely concealed satisfaction. "Clean out your workstation in the fire control center. Your new permanent assignment is general maintenance and cleaning duties. Maybe some time with a mop and bucket will help you understand your proper place in this Navy." As Elena left Dalton's office, she felt the weight of 18 months of exemplary service being systematically destroyed by a leader who saw her capabilities as a threat to his authority. But she also felt something else, the cold clarity that comes when all options except one have been eliminated. That night, Elena composed a message to Commander Chen, "Request immediate evaluation opportunity. Current situation requires decisive action. Ready to demonstrate capabilities under any conditions you specify." Dalton had pushed her to the breaking point, but he had also inadvertently freed her from any obligation to work within a system that was determined to suppress her potential. Tomorrow, Elena would either prove herself worthy of the opportunity Chen was offering, or she would go down fighting against the barriers that stood between her and the future she had spent 3 years preparing to claim. The formal disciplinary hearing was scheduled for 1400 hours in Conference Room Alpha, the sterile administrative space where careers were routinely dissected and reconstructed according to the whims of military bureaucracy. Elena arrived 15 minutes early, her personnel file and supporting documentation organized meticulously in a leather portfolio. Her uniform was pressed to regulation perfection, but her hands trembled slightly as she arranged her evidence on the conference table. The attendees filed in precisely at 1400. Chief Dalton, with his usual air of righteous authority, Lieutenant Commander Foster looking uncomfortable with his role as presiding officer, and, unexpectedly, Master Chief Angela Rodriguez, the ship's senior enlisted advisor whose presence elevated this from a routine disciplinary action to something approaching a formal trial. Most troubling was the appearance of Commander Patricia Hayes, the ship's executive officer, whose attendance meant that Elena's case had reached the highest levels of the ship's command structure. Hayes carried herself with the crisp professionalism of an officer destined for flag rank, and her presence suggested that decisions made in this room would have consequences extending far beyond Elena's immediate career. "This hearing will address allegations of misconduct against Petty Officer Second Class Elena Vasquez," Foster began, consulting his tablet with visible reluctance. "Chief Dalton, please present your case." Dalton stood with the confidence of a man who believed victory was assured. "Commander, Petty Officer Vasquez has demonstrated a pattern of insubordination and unauthorized activities that compromise operational security and unit cohesion. Over the past several months, she has consistently exceeded her authorized duties, attempted to influence gunnery operations beyond her competence, and engaged in unauthorized communications with external personnel." Elena felt the familiar knot of anxiety in her stomach as Dalton opened his folder with theatrical precision. On April 15th, Vasquez questioned established firing procedures during a weapons maintenance briefing, attempting to override calculations developed by qualified gunnery specialists, Dalton continued. When corrected, she persisted in arguing for unauthorized modifications to our firing protocols. "The modifications I suggested were based on mathematical analysis of dispersion patterns," Elena interjected, then immediately regretted speaking without permission. "Vasquez, you'll have an opportunity to respond," Foster said sharply. "Chief Dalton, continue." On April 20th, she accessed advanced ballistics software without authorization, conducting analysis that exceeded her technical responsibilities and potentially compromising classified firing data, Dalton pressed on. When questioned about these activities, she claimed authority she doesn't possess and knowledge she hasn't demonstrated. Elena watched Hayes make notes, her expression unreadable. This was the executive officer who would ultimately recommend Elena's fate to Captain Walsh, and every word from Dalton was building a case that painted Elena as an insubordinate troublemaker who threatened operational security. "Hey, Walsh, most concerning," Dalton continued, his voice rising with practiced indignation. "Vasquez has been conducting unauthorized communications with personnel at Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren, sharing technical information about our weapons systems without proper approval. These communications demonstrate a fundamental disregard for chain of command and operational security protocols." Master Chief Rodriguez leaned forward. "Chief, what specific information was shared inappropriately?" Dalton consulted his notes. Technical specifications regarding our fire control systems, performance data from weapons exercises, and proposals for modifications to established gunnery procedures. All of this was shared with Commander Chen without my knowledge or approval. And what clearance level does Commander Chen hold? Rodriguez pressed. That's irrelevant, Dalton replied quickly. The issue is that Vasquez violated proper channels and exceeded her authority. Elena could no longer remain silent. Master Chief, if I may, Commander Chen holds top-secret clearance and is specifically authorized to receive technical data related to naval gunnery research. My communications with her were entirely appropriate under existing technical liaison protocols. Vasquez, you were not granted permission to speak, Hayes said coldly. Your disregard for proper procedure is noted. Elena felt her face flush with humiliation as the rebuke echoed through the conference room. She had been maneuvered into appearing insubordinate simply by attempting to defend herself against false accusations. Dalton smiled slightly before continuing. This pattern of behavior culminated in Vasquez filing a complaint against me with Captain Walsh, alleging discrimination and improper leadership. This complaint appears to be retaliation for my attempts to maintain proper discipline and role boundaries within my department. The revelation that Elena had filed a complaint clearly surprised Foster and Rodriguez, neither of whom had been informed about her allegations against Dalton. Hayes made additional notes, and Elena realized that her attempt to seek justice through official channels was being portrayed as vindictive insubordination. Furthermore, Dalton continued, Vasquez has been observed making disparaging comments about established gunnery procedures and claiming superior knowledge to qualified specialists with years of combat experience. Her attitude has become disruptive to unit morale and operational effectiveness. Elena listened in mounting horror as Dalton systematically destroyed her reputation, twisting every interaction into evidence of insubordination and incompetence. Her technical expertise was characterized as overreach, her research initiatives were portrayed as security violations, and her attempts to improve operational effectiveness were framed as dangerous interference with established procedures. Chief Dalton, do you have witnesses to support these allegations? Rodriguez asked. Yes, Master Chief. Petty Officer Torres and Gunner's Mate Mitchell have provided statements documenting Vasquez's inappropriate behavior and disruptive attitude. Elena's heart sank as she realized that Dalton had been building his case methodically, collecting statements from personnel who depended on his favor for their own advancement. Torres and Mitchell would say whatever Dalton wanted them to say, and their testimony would carry weight because of their positions within the weapons department. In conclusion, Dalton said, his voice heavy with false regret, Petty Officer Vasquez represents a threat to good order and discipline aboard this vessel. Her inability to accept appropriate role boundaries, combined with her disregard for chain of command and security protocols, makes her unsuitable for continued service in a critical operational department. I recommend immediate transfer to a shore-based administrative position where her disruptive influence can be contained. Elena stared at the table, feeling the walls closing in around her. Dalton's recommendation wasn't just career-ending. It was a professional death sentence that would follow her throughout any remaining Navy service. Shore-based administrative positions were where the Navy sent personnel who had failed operationally, and such assignments effectively ended any hope of meaningful advancement or leadership opportunities. Petty Officer Vasquez, you may now present your response, Foster said with obvious reluctance. Elena stood slowly, her legs unsteady despite months of preparation for this moment. Sirs, Master Chief, the allegations presented by Chief Dalton are either factually incorrect or deliberately mischaracterized to support a predetermined conclusion. She opened her portfolio and extracted copies of her communications with Commander Chen. My correspondence with Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren was conducted through proper technical liaison channels and related to authorized research into improving naval gunnery accuracy. I can provide documentation proving that all information shared was within established protocols for technical cooperation. Documentation that you created after the fact, Dalton interrupted. Convenient paper trails don't excuse unauthorized activities. Elena felt her carefully prepared defense crumbling as Dalton continued his assault. Furthermore, sir, my technical recommendations regarding firing procedures were based on mathematical analysis of actual performance data. The suggestions I made were intended to improve operational effectiveness, not to challenge established authority. Recommendations that exceeded your qualifications and experience, Hayes observed coldly. Petty Officer, Your role is to maintain equipment, not to develop gunnery doctrine. Ma'am, with respect, my technical background provides insights into weapon systems that complement traditional gunnery experience. The improvements I suggested were mathematically sound and operationally beneficial. Your opinion of your own capabilities is noted, Hayes replied dismissively. However, Chief Dalton's assessment of your performance and attitude carries considerably more weight than your self-evaluation. Elena realized that she was trapped in a system designed to validate predetermined conclusions. Her evidence was dismissed as self-serving, her expertise was characterized as presumptuous overreach, and her attempts at explanation were treated as further proof of insubordination. Petty Officer Vasquez, Rodriguez said with what might have been sympathy, do you understand why your communications with external personnel, regardless of their appropriateness, should have been coordinated through your immediate supervisor? Master Chief, I followed established technical protocols that don't require supervisory approval for authorized research coordination, Elena replied. However, I acknowledge that better communication with Chief Dalton might have prevented this misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Dalton snapped. There's only your refusal to accept appropriate boundaries, and your attempt to operate outside established authority structures. Elena felt something break inside her as she recognized the futility of her position. Every answer she gave was twisted into further evidence of guilt. Every explanation was characterized as an excuse, and every attempt to defend herself was portrayed as additional insubordination. Do you have anything else to add to your defense? Foster asked, clearly eager to conclude the proceedings. Elena looked around the room at the faces of her judges. Foster, uncomfortable but committed to supporting the system. Rodriguez, sympathetic but constrained by military hierarchy. Hayes, coldly professional and obviously convinced of Elena's guilt. And Dalton, barely containing his satisfaction at her public humiliation. Yes, sir, Elena said quietly. I have served this Navy with distinction for 5 years. My technical competence is documented and proven. My dedication to operational excellence is evidenced by my performance record. If my attempts to contribute beyond minimum requirements are seen as threats rather than assets, then perhaps this Navy isn't the organization I thought I was serving. The silence that followed was deafening. Elena had essentially acknowledged defeat while questioning the fundamental values of the institution that was judging her. It was career suicide, delivered with quiet dignity, but suicide nonetheless. Hayes looked up from her notes with something approaching respect. Petty Officer Vasquez, your service record is indeed exemplary. However, exceptional performance doesn't excuse insubordination or justify disregard for proper procedures. Elena nodded slowly, accepting the inevitable. I understand, ma'am. This hearing is adjourned, Foster announced. The presiding officers will deliberate and provide recommendations to Captain Walsh within 24 hours. As the room emptied, Elena remained seated, staring at her carefully prepared documentation that had proven worthless against institutional bias and predetermined conclusions. 18 months of exceptional service had been reduced to a narrative of insubordination and incompetence by a leader who saw her capabilities as threats to his authority. Master Chief Rodriguez paused at the door. Vasquez, for what it's worth, I've seen your work. You're a good sailor who got caught in a bad situation. Elena looked up at her. Master Chief, do you think any of this was about my actual performance? Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. No, I don't. But in this Navy, sometimes being right isn't enough. Sometimes the system protects itself at the expense of the people who serve it best. That evening, Elena sat in her quarters with her secure tablet, staring at an encrypted message from Commander Chen. Evaluation window closes in 72 hours. If you're serious about demonstrating your capabilities, this is your last opportunity. Decision required immediately. Elena had spent months preparing for this moment, but she had imagined it coming as a triumph rather than a desperate escape from professional destruction. Now she faced a choice between accepting defeat within a system that had systematically undermined her, or taking a risk that could either vindicate her completely or destroy her utterly. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she composed her response. Request immediate evaluation opportunity. Current situation requires decisive action. Ready to prove capabilities under any conditions. She hesitated before hitting send, understanding that this message would transform her from a victim of institutional bias into an active participant in her own fate. Whatever happened next would be on her terms, not theirs. Elena pressed send and felt the last bridges burning behind her. Elena received the encrypted response from Commander Chen within 2 hours. Report to Naval Air Station Oceana, Building 447 at 0800 tomorrow. Bring full documentation. Evaluation will be comprehensive and decisive. This is your moment. She stared at the message, understanding that everything she had prepared for over the past 3 years was about to be tested in a single day. But first, she had to extract herself from the USS Constellation without alerting Dalton to her intentions. Her current restriction to basic duties and the pending disciplinary action meant that any unauthorized absence would be treated as desertion, adding criminal charges to her already precarious situation. Elena spent the night carefully reviewing her options. She could request emergency leave, but that would require Dalton's approval, which he would certainly deny. She could report to the medical bay claiming illness, but ship's medical personnel would likely see through any feigned symptoms. Her only viable option was to invoke a regulation that few personnel knew existed: emergency transfer for specialized evaluation under direct orders from higher authority. At 0630 hours, Elena presented herself at Lieutenant Commander Foster's office with a folder containing official correspondence from the Naval Surface Warfare Center. Foster looked exhausted, clearly having spent the night drafting his recommendations from the previous day's hearing. "Vasquez, what are you doing here? I thought you were restricted to general duties pending Captain Walsh's decision." Elena placed the folder on Foster's desk with steady hands. "Sir, I've received orders for immediate temporary duty at Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren for specialized evaluation. The orders supersede my current assignment status." Foster opened the folder skeptically, then his expression changed as he read the official letterhead and authorization codes. "This is signed by Commander Chen with approval from Captain Rodriguez at Dahlgren. When did you receive these orders?" "Sir, the evaluation request has been pending for several weeks. Commander Chen's office expedited the orders after learning about my current situation." Foster studied the documentation more carefully. "Vasquez, this authorization is for evaluation as a specialized marksmanship instructor candidate. That's not exactly aligned with your current technical duties." "No, sir, but it is aligned with my qualifications and training record," Elena replied carefully. "The evaluation will determine whether I'm suitable for advanced gunnery assignments." Foster was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications. If Elena's orders were legitimate, and they certainly appeared to be, then her transfer to Dahlgren would remove her from the ship before Captain Walsh rendered judgment on Dalton's disciplinary recommendations. More importantly, it would place her under the authority of senior officers who might view her situation differently than the ship's current leadership. "I need to verify these orders with Captain Walsh," Foster said finally. "Of course, sir. However, the orders specify immediate reporting, which suggests that any delays could affect the evaluation opportunity." Foster reached for his phone, then hesitated. Captain Walsh was preparing for a major operational briefing and had specifically requested no interruptions except for emergencies. Delaying Elena's transfer to verify orders that appeared legitimate might reflect poorly on Foster's own judgment. "Very well, Vasquez. I'll process your temporary transfer immediately. You're to report to Dahlgren as ordered and maintain communication with this command regarding your status." Elena felt the first glimmer of hope she'd experienced in weeks. "Thank you, sir. I'll ensure that all proper notifications are made." As Elena left Foster's office, she encountered Chief Dalton in the corridor. His expression darkened as he noticed her carrying a sea bag and official transfer papers. "Where do you think you're going, Vasquez? You're restricted to ship's duties pending disciplinary action." Elena handed him a copy of her orders. "Chief, I've been transferred to Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren for specialized evaluation. The orders are effective immediately." Dalton scanned the paperwork, his confidence wavering as he read the official authorization. "This is convenient timing. Running away before facing the consequences of your actions." "I'm following lawful orders, Chief. The evaluation at Dahlgren will determine my suitability for advanced assignments." "Advanced assignments?" Dalton laughed harshly. "Vasquez, you're a fire control technician with delusions of grandeur. Whatever game you're playing at Dahlgren will end with you right back here, facing the same disciplinary action." Elena met his gaze steadily. "We'll see, Chief." 2 hours later, Elena stood at the ship's quarterdeck, officially checking out of the USS Constellation for what might be the last time. Master Chief Rodriguez appeared as she completed the departure paperwork. Vasquez, I heard about your orders. Specialized marksmanship evaluation at Dahlgren is unusual for someone in your rating. Master Chief, there are aspects of my background that aren't reflected in my standard personnel file. Rodriguez studied her carefully. Is there something you want to tell me? Elena considered her response. Rodriguez had been one of the few senior leaders who had treated her fairly, and she owed him an honest answer. Master Chief, I've been preparing for opportunities like this for 3 years. The evaluation at Dahlgren will determine whether that preparation was worthwhile. And if it wasn't, then I'll return to face whatever consequences Chief Dalton has arranged for me. But Master Chief, sometimes you have to take risks to discover what you're truly capable of accomplishing. Rodriguez nodded slowly. Good luck, Vasquez. I hope you find what you're looking for. The drive to Naval Air Station Oceana took Elena through the Virginia countryside she had come to know during her shore leave explorations. But this journey felt different, charged with the weight of 3 years of secret preparation finally approaching their moment of validation. Building 447 at Oceana housed advanced training facilities that few personnel ever saw. Elena presented her orders to the security checkpoint, where her identification was verified against classified access lists. The guard's expression was respectfully professional as he directed her to the third-floor conference room where Commander Chen was waiting. Elena had corresponded with Chen for months, but meeting her in person was both intimidating and inspiring. Chen possessed the calm authority of an officer who had earned her position through exceptional competence rather than political maneuvering. Her office was filled with technical manuals, ballistics research, and photographs of experimental weapons systems that represented the cutting edge of naval gunnery development. Petty Officer Vasquez, thank you for coming. I understand your current situation is somewhat complicated. Yes, ma'am. My chain of command is unaware of the full scope of my qualifications and training. Chen gestured for Elena to sit across from her desk. Let's discuss those qualifications. Your correspondence indicates that you've been pursuing advanced marksmanship training independently. Walk me through your preparation. For the next hour, Elena detailed her training with Master Chief Rodriguez at the civilian facility, her physical conditioning program with Dr. Foster, her advanced courses with Sergeant Major Wells, and her extensive study of ballistics theory and marksmanship science. Chen listened intently, occasionally asking technical questions that tested Elena's depth of knowledge. Your theoretical understanding is impressive, Chen observed. But marksmanship is ultimately about practical performance under pressure. Are you prepared to demonstrate your capabilities? Yes, ma'am. I've been preparing for this opportunity for 3 years. Chen stood and walked to her window, looking out at the training ranges visible in the distance. Elena, what I'm about to tell you is classified. The Navy is developing a new program for precision marksmanship specialists who can support special operations with extreme range accuracy. Traditional gunnery training doesn't produce the level of skill we need for these missions. Elena felt her pulse quicken as Chen continued. We've been recruiting candidates from across the fleet, looking for personnel who combine technical expertise with exceptional marksmanship potential. Your background in fire control systems makes you an ideal candidate, but only if you can demonstrate the shooting skills to match your technical knowledge. Chen turned back to Elena. This evaluation isn't just about qualifying for advanced training. If you succeed, you'll be offered a position in a program that could reshape naval gunnery for decades to come. If you fail, you'll return to your ship to face whatever disciplinary action awaits you there. I understand, ma'am. Do you? Because once we begin this evaluation, there's no turning back. Your performance today will determine not just your immediate future, but your entire career trajectory. Elena thought about Chief Dalton's confident assertion that she would return to face the same disciplinary charges, about the hearing where her expertise was dismissed as presumptuous overreach, about 18 months of being told she wasn't qualified for opportunities she knew she could excel at. Preparing and narrating this type of story took us long efforts and hard work, so if you are enjoying the story, please consider subscribing to our channel. Commander, I've spent 3 years preparing for this moment. I'm ready to prove what I'm capable of accomplishing. Chen smiled for the first time since Elena's arrival. Excellent. The evaluation begins in 1 hour. You'll be testing against standards that few people have ever achieved. Are you confident in your preparation? Ma'am, I've been told that my grip is too weak for real weapons, that my size makes me unsuitable for combat roles, and that my technical background doesn't qualify me to understand actual gunnery. I'm looking forward to demonstrating how wrong those assessments are." Chen's smile widened. "Outstanding. Let's see what you can do." As they walked toward the range facilities, Elena felt the weight of 3 years of secret preparation settling on her shoulders. Every hour of training with Rodriguez, every conditioning session with Dr. Foster, every advanced technique learned from Sergeant Major Wells had led to this moment. Behind them, Elena's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from the USS Constellation. "Disciplinary hearing concluded. Captain Walsh's decision pending. Report immediately upon completion of temporary duty." Elena silenced the phone without reading the rest of the message. Whatever judgment awaited her on the Constellation was now irrelevant. The only evaluation that mattered was about to begin, and she was finally ready to show the Navy exactly what they had been overlooking. The range facility was unlike anything Elena had seen in standard Navy training. Advanced electronic scoring systems, variable environmental controls, and target systems that could simulate complex combat scenarios stretched across multiple firing lanes. But most impressive were the weapons, precision rifles that represented the pinnacle of military marksmanship technology. Commander Chen introduced Elena to Master Chief Sandra Walsh, the senior instructor responsible for evaluating marksmanship candidates. Walsh had spent 25 years as a Navy marksman and instructor, with a reputation for maintaining standards that eliminated all but the most exceptional candidates. "Petty Officer Vasquez, Commander Chen tells me you believe you're ready for advanced marksmanship evaluation. In 30 years of testing candidates, I've seen countless personnel who thought they were prepared. Most discover that their preparation was inadequate." Elena met Walsh's challenging gaze. "Master Chief, I understand that this evaluation will be demanding. I'm confident in my preparation and ready to demonstrate my capabilities." Walsh consulted her tablet. "We'll begin with precision shooting at known distances, then move to unknown distance targets, environmental challenge courses, and finally rapid engagement scenarios. Each phase is progressively more difficult, and failure at any point ends the evaluation." As Elena prepared her equipment, she thought about Chief Dalton's mocking comments about her weak grip and technical limitations. In less than 4 hours, she would either vindicate 3 years of preparation or return to the USS Constellation in complete professional defeat. But as she settled into her first firing position, Elena felt the calm confidence that came from absolute preparation. She had trained for this moment under every conceivable condition, studied every aspect of marksmanship science, and conditioned her body and mind for optimal performance. The transformation was about to begin. The first phase of evaluation began at the 100-meter line with a series of precision shots that would establish Elena's baseline accuracy. Master Chief Walsh handed her a standard Navy-issue M16A4 rifle, the same weapon she had qualified with during basic training but had never been allowed to use operationally aboard the Constellation. 10 rounds, standard bullseye target, no time pressure, Walsh announced. "This establishes your fundamental marksmanship before we move to advanced challenges." Elena accepted the rifle and immediately began her pre-firing inspection, checking the weapon's condition with the systematic thoroughness that had become second nature during her years of technical training. Her movements were economical and precise, revealing familiarity with the weapon that surprised the observing instructors. "Interesting grip technique," observed Lieutenant Morgan Foster, a former Marine sniper who served as one of Walsh's assistant evaluators. "She's using modified competition positioning rather than standard military technique." Elena settled into her firing position, her body alignment reflecting hundreds of hours of practice with Master Chief Rodriguez. The critics who had mocked her small hands hadn't understood that precision shooting favored fine motor control over brute strength. Her grip was perfectly calibrated for optimal trigger control and recoil management. The first shot rang out across the range, followed by 9 more in smooth succession. Elena's breathing pattern remained steady throughout the string, her heart rate controlled through the meditation techniques Dr. Foster had taught her. When she finished, Walsh activated the electronic scoring system to retrieve the target data. "Perfect score," Walsh announced, consulting her tablet with obvious surprise. 10 rounds, all in the X-ring. Shot group measures 0.7 inches. Commander Chen made notes on her evaluation form. "That's exceptional accuracy for opening shots with an unfamiliar rifle. Most candidates need several practice strings to achieve that level of precision. Elena stood and cleared her weapon with practiced efficiency. "Ma'am, the rifle's mechanical tolerances are well within specifications. The barrel harmonics and trigger characteristics are actually superior to the weapons I've trained with." Walsh raised an eyebrow. "You evaluated the weapon's technical specifications during a 10-round qualification string?" "Yes, Master Chief. My technical background allows me to assess weapon systems while operating them. The data helps optimize performance for subsequent engagements." The second phase moved to the 200-meter line, with unknown distance targets that would test Elena's ability to estimate range and adjust for environmental conditions. Wind flags along the range indicated variable crosswinds that would challenge even experienced marksmen. 5 targets at unknown distances between 150 and 250 meters, Walsh explained. "No rangefinder, no spotting assistance. Calculate your own firing solutions and engage when ready." Elena studied the targets through her rifle scope, applying the range estimation techniques Rodriguez had drilled into her during countless training sessions. But more importantly, she was processing environmental data with the analytical skills that had made her exceptional at fire control calculations. Wind speed and direction varied across the range, creating complex ballistic challenges that required mathematical analysis rather than intuitive adjustments. Elena calculated precise corrections for each target based on atmospheric conditions, projectile characteristics, and weapon system variables. Her first shot struck the leftmost target dead center, followed by 4 more shots that found their marks with mechanical precision. Each engagement reflected not just marksmanship skill, but comprehensive understanding of the physics governing projectile behavior. "Outstanding shooting," Foster commented as the targets were scored, "but what impressed me most was her systematic approach. She calculated each shot mathematically rather than relying on Kentucky windage." Walsh consulted the electronic scoring system. 5 targets, 5 hits, all in the 9 and 10 rings. Average shot placement deviation, 1.2 inches from center. Elena's performance was attracting attention from other personnel at the facility. Word was spreading that an unknown petty officer was shooting at levels typically achieved only by designated marksmen with years of specialized training. The third phase introduced moving targets and time pressure, designed to test Elena's ability to maintain accuracy under stress. Robotic target systems would present brief exposure windows that simulated combat engagement scenarios. "This phase eliminates most candidates," Walsh warned. "The targets appear for 3 seconds maximum at various ranges. Miss one target and the evaluation ends." Elena nodded her understanding while calculating the physical and mental demands of the upcoming challenge. Her training with Sergeant Major Wells had included extensive work on rapid target acquisition and engagement under time pressure. The first target appeared at 175 meters, moving laterally across Elena's field of view. She acquired the target smoothly, calculated the lead angle, and fired a single precise shot that struck center mass as the target disappeared behind cover. Target after target appeared in rapid succession: close-range pop-up targets that tested reflexes, long-range movers that demanded precise calculations, and partially concealed targets that required split-second decisions about engagement priorities. Elena's performance was flawless. Each target fell to a single, precisely placed shot. Her technical background allowed her to process multiple variables simultaneously while maintaining the physical control necessary for accurate shooting. "Incredible," Foster muttered as Elena engaged the final target in the sequence. "She's shooting like she's been doing this for 20 years. When the moving target phase concluded, Elena had achieved perfect scores while shooting faster and more accurately than any candidate in the program's history. But Master Chief Walsh wasn't finished testing her capabilities. Phase 4, Unknown Distance Precision at Extreme Range, Walsh announced. Single targets at 400, 500, and 600 meters. Environmental conditions are challenging, and the targets represent difficult shooting by any standard." Elena accepted the precision rifle that Walsh handed her, a specialized weapon system designed for long-range accuracy that exceeded anything she had trained with at civilian facilities. But her technical understanding of the weapon's capabilities was immediate and comprehensive. "This rifle's performance characteristics are exceptional," Elena observed, conducting her pre-firing inspection. "The barrel-to-stock bedding is precisely tuned, and the trigger mechanism provides optimal consistency for precision work." Walsh was impressed despite herself. "How do you know so much about precision rifle specifications?" "Ma'am, my technical training included detailed study of weapon system tolerances and mechanical performance factors. Understanding the equipment is essential for optimal utilization." The 400-meter target was barely visible to the naked eye, requiring precise scope work and mathematical calculation of ballistic solutions. Elena studied the environmental conditions carefully, noting subtle wind pattern changes that would affect projectile trajectory. Her shot broke cleanly, the bullet traveling nearly half a second before striking the target with a satisfying impact sound that carried clearly across the range. The electronic scoring system confirmed a perfect bullseye hit. The 500-meter engagement required even more sophisticated ballistic calculations. Elena factored in atmospheric pressure, temperature variations, and the complex wind patterns that affected different portions of the bullet's flight path. Again, her shot found its mark with mathematical precision. The final target at 600 meters represented shooting at the limits of the rifle's effective range. Most military marksmen would consider this an extremely challenging shot requiring multiple attempts and significant luck. Elena settled into her final firing position, conducting her analysis with the same systematic precision she had applied to technical problems aboard the Constellation. She understood that this shot would determine not just her evaluation results, but her entire future within the Navy. The crosswind at 600 meters was particularly challenging, requiring precise calculation of drift compensation across a flight time exceeding 1 second. Elena processed the ballistic variables with the analytical skills that had made her exceptional at fire control work. Her final shot struck the center of the target with an audible impact that brought spontaneous applause from the observing instructors. Elena had achieved perfect scores across every phase of an evaluation designed to eliminate all but the most exceptional candidates. Commander Chen approached Elena's firing position with obvious amazement. "Petty Officer Vasquez, in 5 years of conducting these evaluations, I've never seen performance at the level you just demonstrated. Your shooting is technically perfect and tactically sound." Master Chief Walsh consulted her scoring tablet with an expression of professional disbelief. Perfect scores across all phases. Average shot placement deviation of 0.8 inches across all distances. Time to target engagement averaged 2.3 seconds faster than previous program records. Elena stood and cleared her weapon, feeling the satisfaction of validation after 3 years of preparation. But Walsh wasn't finished with her evaluation. "There's one more test," Walsh announced. "It's not standard for this evaluation, but your performance has been so exceptional that Commander Chen wants to see how you handle our most challenging scenario." Walsh led Elena to a specialized range that simulated complex tactical environments. Multiple targets at various ranges were positioned to require rapid decision-making about engagement priorities and precise shooting under extreme time pressure. This scenario tests everything simultaneously: marksmanship, tactical thinking, and performance under maximum stress, Walsh explained. "You have 30 seconds to engage as many targets as possible while maintaining accuracy standards. Most candidates manage 3 or 4 successful engagements." Elena studied the range layout, applying the tactical analysis skills she had developed through her advanced training. She identified engagement sequences that would optimize her time and accuracy while maintaining tactical sound decision-making. When the exercise began, Elena moved through the scenario with fluid efficiency that reflected integration of marksmanship skill with tactical understanding. She engaged 12 targets in 28 seconds, achieving hit probabilities that exceeded qualification standards for military snipers. "Extraordinary," Foster breathed as the final scores were calculated. "She just set records that will stand for decades." Commander Chen turned to Elena with an expression of profound respect. "Petty Officer Vasquez, you've just demonstrated capabilities that prove you're not just qualified for our advanced program, you're destined to lead it." Elena felt tears threatening as the weight of 3 years of preparation finally lifted from her shoulders. She had not just proven her critics wrong. She had established new standards for what was possible when technical expertise combined with exceptional marksmanship training. Master Chief Walsh approached with her final evaluation form. "Elena, in 30 years of testing military marksmen, I've never seen anything like what you accomplished today. Welcome to the future of naval precision shooting. As Elena signed her acceptance documents for the Advanced Marksmanship program, her phone buzzed with another message from the USS Constellation. She deleted it without reading it, knowing that whatever judgment Chief Dalton had arranged was now completely irrelevant. She had found exactly where she belonged, and she had proven that the only limitations that mattered were the ones you accepted about yourself. Within 2 hours of Elena's record-breaking evaluation, word of her performance had reached the highest levels of Naval Surface Warfare Center command. Commander Chen's initial report triggered a series of secure communications that brought unexpected visitors to Building 447 before Elena had even completed her post-evaluation debriefing. Captain Michael Torres, the commanding officer of Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren, arrived personally to review Elena's scores and meet the petty officer, who had shattered every marksmanship record in the facility's database. Torres carried himself with the quiet authority of an officer whose career had been built on recognizing and developing exceptional talent within the Navy's technical communities. Petty Officer Vasquez, your performance today has generated considerable attention, Torres began, settling into the conference room where Elena sat with Commander Chen and Master Chief Walsh. Before we discuss your future assignments, I need to understand how a fire control technician developed marksmanship capabilities that exceed those of our most experienced snipers. Elena straightened in her chair, recognizing that this conversation would determine whether her evaluation success translated into meaningful career opportunities. Sir, I've been pursuing advanced marksmanship training independently for 3 years, combined with intensive study of ballistic science and weapons systems technology. Torres consulted his tablet, reviewing Elena's service record with obvious interest. Your technical qualifications are exceptional, and your performance evaluations aboard the Constellation have been consistently superior. But there's a discrepancy between your demonstrated capabilities and your current assignment status. Commander Chen leaned forward. Captain, Petty Officer Vasquez has been systematically underutilized in her current position. Her technical expertise combined with her marksmanship skills makes her ideal for the precision engagement program we've been developing. Torres nodded slowly. Elena, Master Chief Walsh tells me that your shooting performance today wasn't just exceptional. It was historically unprecedented. She believes you have the potential to become one of the finest marksmen in naval history. Elena felt her pulse quicken as Torres continued. I'm authorized to offer you immediate transfer to a specialized position that will utilize your unique combination of technical and marksmanship skills. The assignment comes with promotion to Petty Officer First Class and designation as a Naval Special Warfare Precision Engagement Specialist. The words hit Elena like a physical shock. She had hoped for acceptance into an advanced training program, but Torres was offering her a specialized rating that would fundamentally transform her career trajectory. Sir, what would my responsibilities include? Torres exchanged glances with Chen before responding. You'd be assigned to develop and implement precision engagement protocols for special operations support. Your technical background makes you uniquely qualified to integrate advanced marksmanship with naval weapons systems. Master Chief Walsh added, Elena, this position would make you responsible for training other marksmen and developing doctrine that could revolutionize naval precision shooting. You'd be working at the cutting edge of military marksmanship development. Elena struggled to process the magnitude of what was being offered. 3 years ago, she had been mocked for her weak grip and told she wasn't qualified for combat roles. Now she was being offered a position that would place her at the forefront of naval marksmanship innovation. Captain, I accept the assignment with gratitude and commitment to exceeding your expectations. Torres smiled. Outstanding. Your orders will be processed immediately, and your new assignment begins Monday morning. Welcome to the future of naval precision engagement, Petty Officer First Class Vasquez. As the meeting concluded, Elena realized that her phone had been buzzing continuously with messages from the USS Constellation. She finally opened the communications to find increasingly urgent requests for her immediate return to face disciplinary action. Commander Chen noticed Elena's expression as she read the messages. Is there something we need to address regarding your previous assignment? Elena showed Chen the messages, explaining the disciplinary proceedings that Chief Dalton had initiated against her. Chen's expression hardened as she read the accusations and demands for Elena's return. This is completely unacceptable, Chen said firmly. These allegations are clearly retaliatory and designed to undermine a valuable naval asset. Captain Torres needs to see this immediately." Within minutes, Captain Torres was reviewing the communication chain between Elena and the Constellation's leadership. His expression grew increasingly stern as he read Chief Dalton's accusations and the ship's demands for Elena's return. "Elena, these charges are baseless and appear to be motivated by personal animosity rather than legitimate disciplinary concerns," Torres observed. "Your new assignment provides you with protection from this type of harassment, but we need to address this situation directly." Torres picked up his secure phone and placed a call that Elena quickly realized was going directly to Captain Walsh aboard the USS Constellation. She could hear only Torres' side of the conversation, but his tone was unmistakably authoritative. "Captain Walsh, this is Captain Torres at Dahlgren. I'm calling regarding Petty Officer Elena Vasquez, who has just been selected for a specialized assignment under my direct authority." Torres paused, listening to Walsh's response. "No, Captain, she will not be returning to your ship to face disciplinary action. Petty Officer Vasquez has just demonstrated capabilities that make her invaluable to Naval Special Operations, and any attempts to pursue punitive measures against her will be viewed as interference with critical naval programs." Another pause, longer this time. "I understand you have concerns about chain of command and discipline. However, I've reviewed the allegations against Petty Officer Vasquez, and they appear to be completely without merit. Furthermore, her performance today suggests that your ship has been significantly underutilizing one of the Navy's most valuable technical and operational assets." Elena could hear the heated tone of Captain Walsh's response, though she couldn't make out specific words. "Captain Walsh, I'm going to be very clear," Torres continued, his voice taking on an edge that brooked no argument. "Petty Officer Vasquez is now under my direct command for a classified assignment that has presidential priority. Any further attempts to interfere with her duties or pursue retaliatory action against her will result in a formal investigation by Naval Criminal Investigative Service." The call ended abruptly, and Torres turned back to Elena with a satisfied expression. "Your previous command has been informed that you're now assigned to classified duties that supersede any local disciplinary proceedings. Chief Dalton's accusations have been documented as potential harassment of military personnel, and Captain Walsh has been advised that any retaliation could result in serious consequences for his command." Elena felt a wave of relief mixed with vindication wash over her. The systematic campaign that Dalton had waged against her had not only failed, but had been exposed as the petty harassment it had always been. Commander Chen added, "Elena, your situation illustrates a significant problem within our personnel management systems. Talented individuals are being suppressed by leaders who feel threatened by capabilities they don't understand. Your success today will help us identify and address these issues more systematically." That evening, Elena found herself in temporary quarters at Naval Air Station Oceana, reviewing the official orders that had transformed her from a disciplinary problem into a Naval Special Warfare specialist. Her promotion to Petty Officer First Class was effective immediately, along with assignment to duties that were classified at levels she had never previously accessed. Her secure phone rang with a call from Master Chief Rodriguez at the civilian training facility, where her marksmanship journey had begun 3 years earlier. "Elena, I just heard from some contacts at Dahlgren about your evaluation today. Word is spreading through the marksmanship community that you set records that people thought were impossible." Elena smiled, remembering Rodriguez's patient instruction during those early training sessions when she was still struggling to overcome basic technique problems. "Master Chief, everything you taught me about precision and systematic improvement proved decisive today." "I always knew you had exceptional potential," Rodriguez replied, "but what you accomplished today goes beyond anything I could have predicted. You've proven that dedication and intelligent preparation can overcome any perceived limitations." Elena's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from an unfamiliar sender. When she opened it, she discovered it was from Gunners Mate Santos aboard the USS Constellation. "Elena, word about your assignment has reached the ship. The entire weapons department is talking about it. Chief Dalton has been called to Captain Walsh's office 3 times today, and Lieutenant Commander Foster has been asking a lot of questions about the disciplinary proceedings against you. People are starting to understand that we lost something valuable when you left." Elena composed a brief response. "Thank everyone for their support. I hope my success demonstrates that potential exists in unexpected places and should be nurtured rather than suppressed." The next morning brought Elena's first briefing on her new assignment responsibilities. The precision engagement program she would be developing represented a fundamental shift in how the Navy approached long-range accuracy and special operations support. Captain Torres introduced Elena to her new team, Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Martinez, a Marine sniper instructor, Chief Warrant Officer David Kim, a former Navy SEAL with extensive special operations experience, and Dr. Rebecca Chen, a ballistics researcher whose work on advanced ammunition had revolutionized precision shooting. Elena, your role will be to integrate technical systems expertise with advanced marksmanship to create capabilities that don't currently exist, Torres explained. You'll be developing doctrine, training programs, and equipment specifications that will influence naval operations for decades. Lieutenant Colonel Martinez added, your performance yesterday demonstrated that exceptional marksmanship combined with technical understanding can achieve results that neither discipline could accomplish independently. We need you to develop methods for reproducing those capabilities in other personnel. Elena looked around the room at the team of experts who would be working under her guidance. 6 months ago, she had been dismissed as a technician with delusions of grandeur. Now she was being asked to lead development of programs that would shape the future of naval marksmanship. I'm honored by your confidence and committed to proving that this faith is well placed, Elena replied. My experience suggests that excellence often emerges from combining different perspectives and capabilities in ways that challenge traditional assumptions. Chief Kim smiled. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Most people approach marksmanship as either a technical problem or a skills challenge. You've demonstrated that the highest levels of performance require integration of both approaches. As Elena settled into her new office that afternoon, she reflected on the dramatic transformation that had occurred in less than 48 hours. She had gone from facing career-ending disciplinary action to leading development of cutting-edge military capabilities. Her secure phone chimed with one final message from the USS Constellation, this one from Master Chief Rodriguez. Elena, Captain Walsh announced today that the ship's weapons department will be implementing new personnel development procedures designed to identify and nurture technical talent rather than suppressing it. Your success has created changes that will benefit others who follow in your path. Elena smiled as she deleted the message and began reviewing the classified technical specifications for her new assignment. She had not only escaped the limitations that others had tried to impose on her, she had shattered them so completely that those limitations could never be applied to anyone else. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities to prove that her unprecedented evaluation performance was just the beginning of what she could accomplish. But tonight, 6 months after Elena's evaluation at Dahlgren, the precision engagement program she developed had been implemented across 3 naval commands. Her innovative integration of technical analysis with advanced marksmanship had produced the most accurate naval gunners in modern history. The Vasquez method was now taught at training facilities worldwide, proving that excellence could emerge from the most unexpected sources. During a ceremony at the Pentagon, Elena received the Navy Commendation Medal for developing revolutionary marksmanship techniques that enhanced operational effectiveness across multiple combat theaters. As she stood at attention while the citation was read, she thought about Chief Dalton's mocking words about her weak grip and limitations. The irony was perfect. The woman they said was too weak to handle real weapons had become the Navy's foremost authority on precision shooting. Elena's story had spread throughout the fleet, inspiring countless sailors who had been dismissed or underestimated. She regularly received messages from personnel who credited her example with giving them courage to pursue opportunities beyond their assigned roles. Most significantly, the Navy had implemented new policies for identifying and developing talent regardless of traditional role boundaries. Elena's transformation from marginalized technician to elite marksman had exposed systemic problems that cost the military valuable human resources. At the awards ceremony, Admiral Patricia Collins approached Elena afterward. Petty Officer First Class Vasquez, your journey proves that our greatest limitations are often the assumptions we make about ourselves and others. You didn't just overcome barriers, you eliminated them for everyone who follows. Elena's story demonstrates that true strength isn't about meeting others' expectations. It's about exceeding your own potential through dedication and refusing to accept artificial limitations. If Elena's incredible transformation inspired you, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for more stories of ordinary people achieving extraordinary things. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that their perceived weaknesses might actually be their greatest strengths waiting to be discovered. What barriers are you ready to shatter? Let us know in the comments below. Vasquez, Petty Officer First Class and Naval Special Warfare Precision Engagement Specialist, was exactly where she had always belonged.